Welcome to Cloud Realities Live, an original podcast from Capgemini, and this week in partnership with Google Cloud. I'm Dave Chapman.
I'm Esmee van Giesen.
And I'm Rob Kernahan.
And I'm delighted to say that joining us for the second episode from Google Next 2025 is Charlotte Gistelinck, who's the partner engineer for AI Global Systems Integrators at Google Cloud. Charlotte, how are you?
Yes, thank you. Doing very well.
Welcome to the show. It's nice to see you.
Thank you, too.
Are you having a packed week already?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So many people here. Yeah.
Mad, isn't it? It gets bigger every year.
Yeah, and so many announcements. It's hard to keep up with.
It's like a machine gun this morning at the keynote. They just kept going. I got on. Normally, I'm like hunting for a bit. It was like I was just sat back and it just kept hitting me. It was like, wow, a lot going on. It made my job easy, Dave. There you go. Yeah. And with a bit of AI help, I was sort of like, this is straight.
You know, there's a fine line, I think, between using AI to be productive and cheating.
Come on. I'm just ahead of the curve. That's all.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is?
Ahead of the curve.
AI-enabled architect Rob Kernahan.
Yeah, that's right. That's me. That's
living the dream.
I'm not going to, rather than get replaced by it, I'm going to integrate with it and that's it. Going for integration.
That's the right attitude.
Yeah.
It. Look, he's always been pioneering.
I am embracing
Rob,
the future, though. I know where it's going. I'm on it.
Just barreling ahead.
Yeah.
Ez, how you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I am doing okay, thank you very much.
Well, we did actually, though, to be fair, we did have Grumpy Dave for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we did. And
but he's popped out of it now. When Dave gets grumpy, my word, he's like a bear with a thorn in his paw or something.
We
it's
just
like,
sit back
so I'm lucky that I missed that.
Yeah, you missed Grumpy Dave.
Well, there was a lot of things going on. We couldn't get in the hall, and I got in the hall and couldn't get on the network, and we have guests turning up, and we were trying to prepare for it. So that was irksome.
Yeah.
But then also, I made the mistake of reading my email, and every now and again, you get an email that really just pisses you off. Had one of those. And it was all just before we started recording. But thankfully, our guests are bringing us out of the funk.
I see, you've popped out now. Yeah. We've got normal Dave back.
Yes. You can actually see it. Just as soon as he walks in or when we see him.
You know what you're going to get.
There he is.
Yeah. Thank you for noticing, Esmee. Now, we didn't talk about this on episode 1, but this is your first Google Next and your first trip to Vegas.
It is. It's quite overwhelming, I must say.
Sensory overload, along with many other overloads, isn't it, in Vegas?
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah. It's quite intense.
But
I like it. But it feels like an entertainment park. You're like an amusing park 24/7.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it is. It's Disney for adults, I think they call it, don't they? And that's probably about right. I would
That's
say.
a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, why don't you tell us a little bit about your day job and what do you do in your role?
Sure. So, you already mentioned my title, so you know that. So I'm at Google Cloud.
I think I got it right as well, which is
did.
useful.
Yeah. So I work with our large system integrators, our Google partners, and I am an AI specialist.
Right.
So I help them build and design AI solutions on top of Google Cloud for our mutual customers.
I see.
So yeah, that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. Before I was at Google, I was a data scientist. So I was a developer myself.
Right.
I was working in the retail industry, worked at different companies, building machine learning models to inform marketing investments and better understand customers. And then before that, I was in academia. Also using AI, but there to study human disease. So very different. So I've seen AI in different fields and from different perspectives.
Well, tremendous. And I'm looking forward to getting your perspective on how you can successfully, create vision around AI. And we'll come back to that in a second. But before we do, Rob, what's today's announcement?
One of the big ones I quite liked was Google and Sphere partnership, which is and they're recreating The Wizard of Oz for a new experience. And that's going to go live sometime in end of August 2025. It's quite cool what they're doing. So applying it. So first one is super resolution. So taking something that was from the 30s and turning it into...
So they're not creating, just so I understand what you mean. They're not like, are they recreating
No. So they're taking the film and the story as it is, and then they're enhancing it. But the enhancements are quite significant. So the super resolution, okay. Then the next one is outpainting. So the scenes get bigger. So you zoom out from the original director's cut, and then you see more. So they're able to paint a more vivid environment.
Oh, so they haven't just blown it up. They're actually
zooming out. And the sphere with the big 360, you see the Wizard of Oz all around you, right? So they're using the technology of the sphere and they're widening that. So AI is generating a wider view. And then performance generation. So the actors that then can remain on screen who weren't originally shot, AI is generating them into the system. So you're now getting a almost 270-degree view of the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And it's all powered by the VO engine, Imogen 3, things like that. But they've taken the creative industry, supercharged a great classic, and turned it into something that was super modern.
Wow.
I mean,
that's really impressive.
Cool. It's magical, isn't it?
Well, we've seen David Copperfield, but I don't know if we can compare the two. But this is really amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to see it and just see what's the experience, because you think about it, it's taking what was a great piece of art and turning it into something even more impressive from a visually sort of standpoint.
It is amazing. It is amazing, and it's a nice creative use of it as well, I think. Have you seen much of it, Charlotte?
So I haven't seen that, but here at Next, I'm actually staffing the VO and Imagine booth, which you mentioned. So the folks here can come by a bit later and experience that themselves and create their own videos with the same technology.
So, but you're getting into that point where we've had this discussion before, where you could describe what you like, and then it just goes and creates a series for you. So, totally hugely personalized content. I mean, taking something that somebody's dream and then reimagining it, and then there's imagining my dream as well. It's becoming real, isn't it?
I wouldn't want to imagine one of your dreams, Rob. Can you please put some safety protocols into the code?
We'll put some safety filters on there, don't worry.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chapman.
Some things are better to just keep in your head.
I think, you don't have to verbalize everything, and you definitely don't have to make an AI film of it.
No.
Magic only goes so far, doesn't it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, what's the other word?
Dark magic.
Yeah.
Thanks for the contribution, Robert.
I always love being on this podcast and the experience it offers. Undiagnosed trauma, I tend to describe it as. But anyway, we'll move on from that.
All right. Well, look, let's get on to our subject of the day. Now, obviously, every organization in the world's thinking about AI. There's no question about that.
And they should be.
Yeah, and they should. You're right. If they want to be competitive, they certainly should be. Now, a few of them have, actually not a few of them, a lot of them have been doing it in proof of concept mode and trying to think about it. And what we've talked about on the show is that we think this year is going to be the year of scaling. Mm-hmm. So how you piece different bits of AI together to create a scaled effect across your organization. And this, I'm delighted to say, is right in your sweet spot of how you actually apply it. So let's just start with, when you think about applying AI to an organization, what's part and parcel of that strategy and the vision that would go along with it?
Yeah, so I think, what we often see with corporations is they're very excited by AI. They want to jump right in, which, is a good thing, but also a bad thing, because it is very important to have a very solid strategy behind it. And I think what we often see is that people approach it more from a tactical point of view, and they're thinking of what are the problems that I have today that I could solve right away with AI. I have this marketing campaign that I'm running, how could I leverage AI there to solve that specific problem? How could I improve this specific customer experience right away with AI? Mm-hmm. And while that's good, that's not really AI strategy. So we want to take a step back and think over a longer term. What is my longer term? What are some of my longer term goals? What do I think are some of the longer term opportunities? Some of the challenges that my business is going to experience, and how could I help with AI to overcome these challenges? How could I, with AI there, help my vision become reality? Mm-hmm. And there, of course, you're also taking into account, some of the constraints, the cost, and so on. So that all goes into the picture. So also when we take another step back and really think about vision, there we're thinking really more big picture, what are those moonshot ideas? What are some of those things that can be really far out there? I want to build a civilization on Mars, right? That's a big vision. I want to have full self-driving, no human drivers, no car accidents. That's the big vision. So sometimes there can be some tension between that, the vision and the strategy, because in strategy, we do still want to be realistic. We want to take into account costs. We want to take into account some of the constraints. What can AI do? What can AI not do? But it's the vision that is basically pushing us to dream bigger. So
how do you approach it with the clients that you work with? When let's say you're writing a 36-month strategy of 3 years or maybe 5 years. In the past, it's been quite predictable what that's going to be. Like the business environment, you're not going to change that much. You know, the tick speed that everybody's working at is quite well understood. Governance processes are just kind of all paced correctly. What I think we know at the moment is with scaled AI impacting organizations that very many elements of how organizations function, how they talk to other organizations, how they bring products to market, for example, pretty much know all that's going to be impacted very deeply.
Yeah.
So where do you start with trying to envision that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to start step by step. I think a good thing to do is first kind of understand your situation right now, kind of like run an assessment of your business, like where are you at? What are some of the challenges that you have? What are some of the things that you already have in place? And then kind of like draw out a roadmap. But one important thing that I think is crucial, and you touched upon that, is because things are moving, so rapidly. Maybe in a year, there's a new technology that's better than what we're using today. So I think it's very important to remain open-minded,
right?
And to also like embrace the change, which can be
like Robert.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Bastion of embracing change.
Well, there we go. Yeah. And I mean, that can be very hard because I think humans naturally are kind of, like...
Change resistance.
Yeah, change is hard. And especially big organizations, right?
Right.
But you have to stay agile and you have to be willing to change and build a practice with AI that basically allows you to, change if needed and pivots.
And when you're developing the strategies, like what's the win element of it? So like how does actually just having one of these things help your organization win, or at least be on par with AI-driven organizations that are going to be popping up all over the place in the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, why should we bother, right, with all of this? Yeah. I mean, we talked about this. I think in this day and age, it's not like a nice to have. It's really a must have. So if you're not doing it, like you're gonna
your competitor's going to be.
Exactly, that's it.
Well, when the technology first came out, there was this move that said, it's just a fad, it'll go away. And it went, no, it's here to stay. And oh my God, look what they've done, look what they've done, look what they've done, look what they've done. You stand back and you just go, if you don't do this now, your company is probably going to get
That was a bit like when I was originally going on and evangelizing around agentic, and he went, nah, it's just like RPA, isn't it?
No, low agency versus high agency. This is the thing.
It's here to stay, it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away.
Told you, Rob.
Did you though, Dave? Did you? Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I think some of the more important things that AI can really make you do is, first of all, every company, usually they have huge amounts of data, right? Yeah. So how can you leverage that data to drive decision making?
Right.
Because data is wealth. And I think that's not always, like, people don't always realize that, or corporations don't always realize that.
Well, it's also
there's so much in that data, but you have to be able to leverage it, and their AI can really play a huge role.
Yeah, so I wonder if we just go one layer deeper on that as well, because I definitely agree with you. You don't have to envision too far out, I don't think, to see a world where that whole phrase "data is the new oil" that was knocking around about 10 years ago. I think we're actually there now.
It's come alive, hasn't it?
Yeah, and you can see how data itself can be monetized as asset.
It gets sold. It's very important.
But the key part about that, just to link it back, the vision was it's all going to be in data. The strategy has arrived, which is the technology is now able to allow us to access it in a way that is practically usable, isn't it?
Yeah. That's actually one of the questions I was going to ask Charlotte, which is, historically, data has been the bane of an organization's life because it's locked away in different systems. And, if I had $1 for every failed kind of data architecture or MDM project that enterprises have tried, and then, 20 million in, 5 years later, have barely made any progress.
Yeah.
Why is it different now? Is it like, are we past the point of needing to care about that because AI will just be able to unlock it for us?
No, definitely not. And I
think you've ruined his day now.
I was setting you up there.
Now we're going to get grumpy Dave now because his visions are.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely we have to caution people, and I think this is something that we do see right now with the wave of AI. I think the smart people or the smart corporations, we're also seeing a wave of like data management and good data practices, because data is like the first layer of the pyramid. If you don't have that layer and it's not good quality, it's not good structure, it's not built in the right way, nothing that you build on top is going to be stable.
Right.
So it's very important to have like a good data infrastructure, good data quality, good data governance in place before you go and build AI models on top of that.
And is there a bit of a conflict there? You talked at the beginning about the excitement this is generating in organizations, right? There's that, because this is a hard message, right? So everything gets very excited, bouncing around, like let's go do something. And you go, but however, you just need to make sure this bit's correct. And because you've ignored it for the last 10 years, we might need to put a little bit of extra heavy lifting in to get it sorted. Now you can imagine that goes, the reality thump might kick in a little bit at that point.
Honestly, I think that is what's going to set the companies apart, the ones that are really able to like have that AI strategy and that AI vision and do it the right way, and the ones that don't. I mean, you can do use case here and there, right? And it's not going to matter much if you have, some data that's good enough. But if you really over the longer term want to leverage AI in a bigger vision, you just need that base layer of good quality data.
What this is, over the last 20 years, all the crimes against architecture that have occurred, that somebody, we always knew we should have maybe fixed that bit so that it's all coming home to roost. So you want this magic, now you got to go back and go, well, you should have done that, shouldn't you? There's a bit of a, I told you so. Oh, it's massive for me. I love it. You go, I did tell you.
They'll be like,
I did tell you needed to sort this.
There will be sociopathic architects the world over going into the people who denied them budget and going, told you should have done that 20 years ago. You can see it coming, can't you?
Yes, unfortunately.
It's a happy day for us.
So you've talked about one aspect of what's required to achieve one of these visions, like a solid data foundation, solid data architecture.
Good data foundation.
Build us up from there. What are the other things that you need in place?
Yeah, I think one of the other very crucial things is leadership. So leadership, and that starts from the top. That starts at the CEO level, C-suite level. They really have to champion that AI vision, and they really need to believe in it.
Right.
And they need to push it top down or drive it top down. But past that, we also need to see at every layer that we have people that really believe in that vision and really want to make it happen. So that's definitely something where we see a big difference. If like the CEO is bought into the vision, like CTO, they're all bought into the vision. The difference with just, a company saying, okay, because we have to do it, we'll do it, because it's not the same. So that's one crucial point. And then something that goes hand in hand with that, I think, is talent and culture, or having the right talent at your company. If you want to do these crazy projects, I mean, someone is going to have to build it, right?
Right.
So you want to make sure you have the right people with the right capabilities that can actually build out these solutions. And then also having the right culture. And there, I think it's very important that you might have these amazing engineers. They can build these crazy models that can do very crazy things. But at the end of the day, are the business users going to use this very shiny new toy? Maybe not. Maybe it's not giving any value to them. So I think there, the cultural aspect is you kind of have to break down that silo of business side needs to be talking to the engineers and vice versa.
Right.
So the engineers need to be able to break down those very complex things, like what's the art of the possible, what is not possible. And then you need to have informed decisions on what you're building and making sure it's actually driving business outcomes.
And it's always, when you get business and engineering together, the two conversations are, I didn't know you could do that. That's what the business say. And then the engineers go, I didn't know you wanted that. And it's that moment where you just go, connect, please. And it's all gets a lot better.
Yeah. And I mean, it is not easy. Yeah. I think it's something a lot of businesses struggle with, but it is very important because otherwise, engineers they'll build very cool stuff, but nobody's using it. It's costing a lot of money to build it. And, there's basically no ROI. And then at the same time, there's business problems that maybe you could solve with AI, but that's also not happening because that side is not talking either. So
did you already see AI being used to create that vision? We were just talking about the sphere. Can you imagine that you just step in and you have AI inspire you?
Yeah.
Because what I see is a lot of leaders, if you have the same mindset and you want to, create a vision, it's probably going to be the same, only a little bit different than what you're already doing. So if you have AI that can really inspire you to take it to another level.
Well, it's the one of the things I spotted was, when you have to sit down and solve a problem, I learned to describe my problem to the AI and stand back and see what it says. And then it's just enough of a prompt and you go, great idea. Yes. I'm going to embrace that and go further. And it's that just gives you the little spark of inspiration that gets you going and out of your rut. It's quite powerful.
And even, if you want to we now also have deep research, it's called, like Gemini with deep research. So if, for instance, I'm a business and I want to understand the tariffs, how is that going to affect my business? You could use Gemini with deep research and it'll go in history, look at some of the other situations where we had tariffs. How did that affect the economy? Wow. How did that affect certain businesses? And it'll go and create a nice report for you. And then that is something that you can leverage in your bigger vision.
I find it fascinating there when you started to build on what you actually need in your organization to do it, that you went to leadership and culture. First, like so often forgotten in technology change projects that somebody has to champion this thing, and a lot of the time IT organizations who are very well intended will try and drive this stuff from the bottom up, and I like what you said around the fact that no, this is a board level concern.
Yes, I've seen this myself as a developer building very cool things, but then if we're not talking to the business side and nobody's going to use it, that doesn't help anyone, right? At the end of the day, just wasting money. So it's a very common thing. And I think you see it more in companies that are like more traditional. They're not like tech first. A tech first company that is built, on tech, built on the cloud. It's much easier if you're like a traditional retailer and you kind of have to adopt these things.
You have your IT department that
they're in another building.
Under a trapdoor. You have to go through a trapdoor to get to the IT department sometimes.
And their mindset is probably that they're still retailers in the traditional sense of retailer, rather than you're a digital company that just happens to do retail or grocery.
Yeah, and it's there also again that C-suite, right? That's very important for driving that vision. Yeah.
So when you've got some of these components kind of understood, you've got a chief executive or a board that's leading from the front, vocal about the vision and starting to push it into their organizations. How do you then begin to execute that at scale?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that's very important is just understanding the status quo. So doing kind of an assessment of different aspects of your business. One thing to look at is what is your AI maturity level? Are you already doing AI? How advanced are you in that? What is the current practice that you have? And there's frameworks out there, that dive deep. Google also has some frameworks out there for that. Then what is the talent that I have in my organization? Do I have people that can build these tools? Or do I need to hire? Do I maybe have to go and upskill the people that I already have? What is, again, getting back to the data, what does my data look like? What is my data infrastructure? Do I have data governance and so on? Is there any work needed there? So just getting a very good, but also a very honest understanding of where your business is at right now, I think is the crucial first step. And then after that, you can really go and build the vision on top of that. So then you can really think of some of the challenges that you might have in the future, some of the opportunities that might arise where AI could help you, and then basically draw out that larger vision. And then once you have that, we're going to break it up into little or smaller pieces that are more manageable to execute. And something that we do see often, and I think that's the right approach to go about it, is starting with small use cases.
Right.
So once you have that vision in place, let's find some very good use cases in your organization where AI could really make a difference, where we could get some quick wins. Because maybe, leadership is bought into the vision, but people are always going to, have some doubts.
Yeah.
Right?
Seeing is believing. Once it's out there,
Yeah, exactly. So I think having some good use cases where you could just have a quick win, quickly show value, quickly show ROI to get more people bought in. That's usually the right way to then actually go and start.
And I see that a lot is the, you need your pioneer, your lighthouse, whatever is thing that says, ta-da, look what we did. And we did it really quickly, because a lot of people concentrate on the plumbing and trying to get everything right. And you go, no, you got to get something out pretty quick so everybody can get excited about it and understand the potential. Because a lot of people look at this stuff and go, not too sure. And then you go, ta-da, and you go, wow. And you know what's very exciting about it? What I really like is, as we're talking about this, is
this what you always say?
Yeah, this is what I always say, David, is there's so much potential with all this new technology coming out that you just know in about 18 months to a year, some great new service is going to come out. It's going to be the one where we go, how did we ever survive before this service was available?
Yeah, right.
It's coming, don't you? There's something very dramatic on the horizon, I would say.
Yeah.
The scale of it, ultimately the scale of it,
Potential is
things
high.
up. This is just like in some random tweet or whatever that I was reading, but I thought it was an interesting concept where, you remember at that point TikTok was going to get banned in the US, and there was that big debate about it, and somebody tweeted something along the lines of like, well, why do I need to care? Why don't I just ask AI to create me another TikTok?
Yeah.
And then if it's not a very good one, I'll get them to do a better one. And it was like, oh yeah, that's big thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then, some other thing that I do want to get into, which we haven't touched upon that much, is it is still important, right, to have that solid tech stack. So you do need, at the end of the day, to make sure, like, once you want to make that vision into reality, like, you have the right tools. And I think they're also being realistic, because that's also something that I've seen. Like, you have to make sure that the tools work for the people that you have. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to build this all on open source tools and, we're going to build everything ourselves, you better make sure you have the right talent for that.
Right.
There's a lot of skill required to do that pace, isn't there?
And I think people really, or corporations sometimes underestimate
massively. They go, and we're going to build one of these, and you go, oh, you don't have the army of engineers you need, and they're very hard. These engineers are hard to find as well. They're like unicorns sometimes.
Yeah, and there, of course, Google, Google Cloud, we have really good tools that are self-managed. That if you don't have that army of engineers, like, you could leverage some of these tools. They can make it much easier. We have our own models that they're ready to go. You could just use those, so you don't have to go and build everything from scratch. So
and when you come back to the visioning and the business case around it, that acceleration that the platform gives you is absolutely massive, right? And you cannot, and a lot of people, I don't think, factor in the benefit in that properly. It's a different way of thinking about it. You just have to accept the fact that the abstraction is of huge value.
Yeah, exactly. And I've also seen that again myself we can do it ourselves. We're just going to try it. We're going to use all these open source tools. Our engineers will be able to do it. And then it's 1 year later and
stuck in the mud.
It's horrible. It's not working. We have to pivot. But then you already lost 1 year and you probably also lost a lot of money.
But a year is a long time in this game.
But there is also you see that that's an experience that I think sometimes that you have to have so people learn, and then the corporate memory kicks in and they go, well, we're not going to go there ever again, because it was like we don't talk about that. It's one of those events where we just don't talk about it anymore.
That sounds very hopeful.
PTSD,
because then they actually learn from it, because it's like we all know those cases that
they just try to eliminate it.
You just have it again.
But I wonder, Charlotte, you talked about capability building and the importance of capability building. Now, even as of 12 months ago, when you're using that sort of language and those descriptors, you'd think 100% human. So what you're talking about is 100% human.
Sure, yeah.
What do you think in a hybrid AI human organization that looks like? Is it 50% human engineers and 50% agent engineers?
It's kind of hard to say. It kind of also depends kind of on your organization. What are you trying to do? There's some things where you really need like a human in the loop. Like, you want to make sure, I'm thinking like medical field, right?
Right.
Like you want to make sure if you give a cancer diagnosis to a patient, sure, like AI, and AI can do that. AI looked at the images, the scans, and AI sees like a mass. But you still want to make sure, that it's not some artifact in the image. So you still want to make sure you have a human in the loop. So I think it really depends on the organization to what extent, it would be AI versus human. But I think definitely that is shifting. And we are seeing, in some of the fields like engineering, like just software engineering, productivity is going up so much by using, Gemini Code Assist, all these amazing tools. It's just so much easier to
it's only like 2 or 3 weeks up, but vibe coding. It's a new thing.
Yes.
Yeah, vibe coding. I mean, that's just came out of nowhere, and you go, it's a new way of thinking.
Honestly, it's so much more fun. Like I code myself, and just thinking of the days when I had to Google stuff. I had to go to Stack Overflow. Why is this error popping up?
Yeah.
Now it's so much easier. Like with Gemini, I just put in you can put in your whole code base and then like ask it, refactor my code, or like, now I want to do this. How do I do that?
So, I mean, the one that I did the other day was just Python, and I just asked it to write a Tetris game.
Yeah.
And I just pasted it into Python, put start, and went, it's made a Tetris game. And it was like, it worked perfectly. And I'm like, you just go, if I had to do that back in the day, that would have been a right faff.
Exactly.
A right faff. But then the AI creates code, and you look at it and you go, I never thought about doing it like that. And then as a developer, when you always learn from other people's code and how they've done it. That's part of the development process. But AI can then show you other ways to think about how you might create your code. And
it's also a very good tutor, honestly, for learning. It's a great tool as well. Yeah.
Well, I want to bring us back, maybe just to bring our conversation to a bit of a conclusion for today, on organizational impact.
Yeah.
And I wonder what is going on in your head when you think about like an organizational shape today. Most organizations are broadly hierarchical, or they might be a bit more networked and a bit flatter, but humans know how to work together generally. Governance processes are quite well understood. How boards function are quite well understood. And it seems to me like you could probably execute it now, but let's just say in 12 months' time, AI is going to have impacts and opportunities in all aspects of how an organization functions, and therefore why it shapes itself in that way. How profound do you think the impact will be on things like overall organizational shape, for example?
In like 12 months?
Pick your time frame.
I mean, 12 months, I think something that we're seeing now more is these like intelligent agents. And I think that's definitely something that in all these layers of a business, like you were mentioning, you could plug in an intelligent agent and it can do certain actions for you that otherwise would take a lot of time.
Right.
So I think it's just going to make everyone more productive. Like your output will just be 10x of, like, a developer will be able to write 20,000 lines of code, where he otherwise maybe would have written 2,000 lines of code. But someone in marketing also, they can generate much more content, again, with AI. Otherwise, that wouldn't have been possible. So I think it's just gonna, all the people in the organization is just gonna increase their productivity, which is going to eventually increase the productivity of the organization itself. Yeah.
Well, a good note to end on, I think. And a big thank you for spending some time with us today in what I'm sure is a very busy diary.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, look, we've mentioned it a couple of times that we've been very inspired by Arthur C. Clarke's quote this week, which is, any technology, when it's sufficiently advanced enough, can be indistinguishable from magic. And he said that in, I think, the 50s or the 60s. But that really feels real when you're at something like this, especially with this set of announcements and right where we are. Even 2 years ago, it wouldn't have felt necessarily magical.
Yes.
But I think it probably does today. And we've been talking about, therefore, like magicians. And we wonder, who was your favorite magician when you were a kid?
Ooh, I would have to say Harry Potter, actually.
Oh, I like it.
So,
yeah.
I read all the books. I saw all the movies. Yeah. So an amazing story. So,
It is indeed.
Yeah,
It is
definitely.
indeed.
Yeah, that was. I love it when somebody creates a completely new universe and it's
Yeah.
ace.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that, where it's just it was novel in the truest sense of the word.
Well, I also like the fact that like a fictional character was your favorite magician. It's like it's a very broad category when you start
Yes.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So thanks again.
Thank you.
If you'd like to discuss any of the issues on today's show and how they might impact you and your business, please get in touch with us at cloudrealities@capgemini.com. We're all on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to connect on DM if you have any questions for the show to tackle. And of course, please rate and subscribe to our podcast. It really helps us improve the show. A huge thanks to Charlotte, our sound and editing wizards, Ben and Louis, our producer Marcel, and of course to all our listeners. See you all in Google's Reality Next.